camera panned up, King pointed to the mountaintop, and we ran up. One day.
It's in the meaning of our liberty and our freedom, like men and women nation of every race and every faith can join in celebration of this magnificent ball. This is a tragedy. You know, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon.
Protesters converge on Ferguson Police Headquarters, demanding justice for Michael Brown, the unarmed teenager killed by a police officer 2 months ago, and others they see as victims of police violence.
Welcome. Yesterday, our co-chair said something that was a kind of surprise to me. They're going to expand our original media committee outreach for the voter registration, which we started in 2018, and we plan to work through towards the general election, 50% or above. So maybe it's not as bad as we think. And then we'll go on to talk about the exciting campaign we're delivering, hopefully, about potential candidates, what they look like at this stage. If you watch the debate, it's a moving field. But based on what we find, there'll be some key things. Yes, please interrupt me today.
One thing I want to have addressed is why people are not receiving the communications from NAB. I get, and Michael get, Q Visions. We've got no other communications from the NAB.
Let me address that right now. We don't have a communications secretary. We do now. We've elected someone. And that's the job of the communications secretary. So we have to apologize for not getting things out to you. It's not just Q Visions, but our database ought to send you out surveys and updates. So we're going to improve on that, DA, and we're sadly lacking on that. We don't mail things out. It's costly. There's more except to people that request it. Okay, so let's see what else is going on here. The standing rules, you all got bored with those yesterday as we were changing them. But they're important. They tell us exactly what we need to do in the media committee, such as Q Vision's website, Facebook page, Wikipedia, archives. We have a new app on Android at least, and then we do a survey. We're on Twitter. John, you asked me to give you a quick idea about what these different platforms are. Twitter is a text-based setup. DA?
I'm looking for, normally when you come to a workshop, they have pages.
Okay.
And
You want to
asking
take some
John
notes?
has got a spare page.
Oh, excellent. Anyway, that's our election as defined by the bylaws.
I don't want to.
But then you see all the additional things that are coming in that are recent. And we have some new ideas. This, for example, the racist app that Mark and Demetrius have worked on, along with some online people. We now have an Adobe software which allows us to put various combinations of Q Visions. We can put on web apps, webinars, and a variety of online on a platform that's very secure. And that's important. That's another example. Survey Monkey we talked about. And podcasts, which we used to do. But that's very time consuming. So we moved away from that to a certain extent. On the next slide.
Can you keep that slide, because I'm trying to get a picture of it. Please. Hate to be the
That's okay. Come up.
thorn in your side.
Let me know when you're ready, DA. Interrupt me if you wish. I'll be glad to explain it. So while he's doing that,
Thank you.
there was a question yesterday from DA again on this thing, Zoho. Zoho is a customer relations manager. Up till when our co-chair, Scott, came on board, we had no idea. We had a collection of pieces of paper for our people. But the Zoho allows us to put in information via spreadsheet, via a variety of inputs, to make sure we have a complete picture of the demographics of our members. And that's important because we really want to know who we are. And then that was what we've been doing recently. And what we're going to do in the future is we're going to look at the media committee and review our member information and define our media committee work based on what we know about people, instead of what we think people want, or what we think people are going to do, or what we think people are going to afford. So that's a new idea. And we're going to do market research on that, looking at what generations are doing, what they're thinking about, and what our database tells us. Then, once we do that, we'll use our research findings, our market research, to focus our work. And in the past, as you can see, if you look at this slide, it's a huge amount of work to do. Our committee is one of the biggest committees in terms of the amount of work that needs to be done. So, what we do is provide our member for the midterms, we've done that, or for 2020 election, information which we think is unbiased. Now, if you watched Meg's performance last night, I kind of think it was a little bit biased, but we go out of our way to talk about the programs and not the people, as we need to as a non-profit organization. Question?
It may have been biased, but it was really accurate.
Yeah, right on point.
Thank you. Okay, so what are the new programs going to do? This is the magic number we have. And that number's been propagated all over the place. You're not 63. You're the magic number there. Okay, but what that means is when we took data, and this is on the people who are at the conventions, what we did was we were able to get a bunch of people and figure out what their ages were. Or at least what they say the ages are. But, you know, if you think about the 63, yes, 50%, if you know the statistics, are between these two ages. So there are a variety of people in this area, 50% statistically. It's a smooth curve. That's good news, because that means our sampling is probably okay for the conventions now. But we don't have a huge amount of information. But the new thing is, we're going to talk about generations. Okay, so we have 50% of the people that basically are in these two generations. We'll tell you a little bit about what people tell us about that, and the research tells us about these generations. Got it? Okay.
Ken, this reflects the number of people who have attended conventions in the past,
Yes.
or our entire Zoho database?
No, it's a combination of where we know in the database where they said they've gone to conventions and actual conventions. So, based on that, looking at those three generations, what we want to do is focus on the idea of what we think, based on research, market research, people are interested in, and what method of finding and making information on. I'm going to dwell on this because it's kind of complicated, maybe unexpected, but what we're saying is, in these generations, research, not my research, but other research says, here's what people either are interested in the case of health information, or how do they get their information? And they either use email, or websites, or social network sites, depending on the generation. So we color-coded it, where we think, based on these three areas, green should be something we'd be interested in, maybe focus our work, maybe a little bit in the yellow. But for example, research shows that people in this area don't get their information by texting. Texting is a new phenomenon, Twitter, and apart from our distinguished president, in these generations, it's not that well known or used. So to repeat, we take our information from conventions and other surveys, and we're going to focus our research and apply it to the 2020 elections. Okay, so one of the things in business is the so-called SWOT analysis. If you talk to John Williams, he's done that with our organization. What does it mean? It means you look at yourself through an extended retreat or gnashing your teeth and try and figure out who you are based on your strengths and weaknesses and what are the opportunities and the concerns you might want to look at. So, obviously we have a long legacy, we're trusted, and we do have a lot of skills in our organization. Our weakness, of course, is well known, lack of manpower. And that's what we're discussing here. We're trying to focus our manpower in the media committee. Revenues, well, we know we have, 150,000 plus or minus. Mm-hmm. So we do have some money. We're likely to be able to use that, but revenues are not where they should be. The opportunities are, based on the fact we're trusted and we're knowledgeable, we can look at unique messages, especially on our Facebook page, which is one of our opportunities to take the 13,000 plus people and trying to use our messaging in that. Now, mining, so they use it on Facebook, is tough. And we're trying to get some orderly way of doing that. And that'll be part of the opportunity as we go forward. Concerns, dwindling reserves, membership declines. And then we talked about that quite a bit. Any questions at this stage? Feel free to interrupt me. Mr. Kochar.
Two things. One is, I don't know that our reserves are dwindling. They're pretty stable.
Stable, a better word?
But they're not growing.
They're not growing.
They're not, I would say they're not growing, but they aren't dwindling. And the second is, this is wonderful research to see how the different generations speak. Some are by phone, some are by, we've seen that the older people aren't by text. Are there any technology additions that the committee identified that would help us communicate better with membership?
Are there any better ways of talking to our members?
For example, if that chart said that 75+% of our members text, then perhaps the NA should look into a texting service.
I
that would allow
don't
us
think
to
we
do
have that information.
Okay.
The information from the previous slide is actually based on average working, our sector, non-profit sector.
Okay.
So if we, and maybe Mark's working towards that in his surveys, we should say, here's our best platform to talk. I think that's what you're saying, right?
I'm saying if we've identified any gaps in our approach to our membership, typically it's through email and Q-Visions, which arrives by email. So if email were a low percentage communication way, then we should look for other ways.
Statistically, these are the ways we should look in the following order, but we haven't confirmed that.
Okay.
So we need to specifically ask that. Sheldon, do you have
Yeah,
a question? And then back to Mark. Mark, do you want to respond on that?
Well, just in looking at the data, if 50% of our membership is over 63 and 50% less, if you abandon the idea of using texting as a communication, you're really removing the lower group, the lower age group of people we're trying to attract.
Right.
So I think this helps us understand how to reach out, but it doesn't necessarily suggest that we should put less resources into something in the lower age categories that are using something that the higher age categories aren't using.
Right. And again, we don't really know. We need to find out more specifics about these platforms. Sheldon, do you want to?
Yeah, what I am missing is a voice situation because I prefer calling people and talking to them on the phone. Texting with data charges could be really expensive, and in fact, I had to pay an extra $209 this month because of texting.
Whoa.
So I'd rather call someone and talk to them. That doesn't seem to be included on the list, like just voice calling.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's very manpower intensive, and we did that by a program of just phoning people. What we found out, the actual communication with the phone, independent of what you're talking about, brings enormous benefits.
Right.
Because you're actually talking to people, and the three of us can probably tell you when we call some people up. Of course, some of them don't have an active phone,
Right.
but when we call them up, they usually say, "Well, thank you for calling me. What's happening?" And we were trying to find out what their interests were. So we will continue to do that. At the back there, DA.
I have a problem. You know that 50% is the 63 and above, of which I am truly a member at the age of 74, and you're not talking anything about the communication to, I'm a war baby, and the generation, and we have people before that, and a number of them, they don't even have email or electronics at all. I love email. I've gotten to that point. I mean, I've developed. But, you know, these texting and this other, let the young people have it. And if you want to reach out to the young people, all well and good. But if you're going to send me something, email, or as like Sheldon said, a phone call is fabulous,
Okay.
you know. But I see everything, you've got everything but me on that.
We don't have email in your generation.
No, well, you don't have my generation. You truncated at 64. I'm
This is-
74.
Agreed. This is an 80-20 truncation of that chart. And, okay, so we could extend this. I don't have that data for your age group. Yes.
I'm from Philadelphia. Well, I'm in the same category. And I just noticed, I mean, statistically, it's very weird. In our group, we have a large percentage of us are over 65 years old. I hate to say that. And we are not on there at all. We're not baby boomers. A large percentage of our chapter. I'm not embarrassed about being 74 years old.
Of course.
And I do basically email, and I love getting phone calls if I'm at phone.
So what we're learning from a number of people here is, to summarize, we really would like those two ways of communications to be improved.
Yes.
And actually, baby boomers don't end until 1944, so actually it is older than 64.
Thank you.
No, I'm not a baby boomer.
You're not a baby boomer?
It goes up to
45.
No, he's not a baby boomer.
No, it goes up to 1944.
I'm a baby
No,
boomer.
baby boomers start
Wait,
at
guys,
46.
Guys,
Starting
the
now,
word
46.
boomers covers a spread of things, and not everybody can decide on where it's ends, so we
Doesn't
have to be
cover those
careful
of us
about
born in
what we
World
say.
War II.
Those of us, did you hear that? It does not cover those of us born during World War II. If you go to any statistical book,
That's why
those of us born during World War II or before are not covered under boomers. We're ahead of that. We're either silent generation or war babies. I'm a war baby. Jeff's a war baby.
Okay,
You don't
point
have
taken.
us.
Point taken, DA. Go ahead. John, you got a question?
Yeah, Ken, is this particular chart a survey from the general population or from our surveys?
It's a survey from the general population.
Okay.
We talked about these things here, and let me move on one more and bring out Demetrius. He's going to tell you a little bit about 2018.
Okay, everybody. Thank you, Ken. And what we did was we wanted to make sure that we were aligning with our mission purpose and not endorsing candidates. So with our mission purpose, we wanted to look at the political part of it. This is the age that we need to look at politics and look at what's happening. And with that, and with our findings, what we did during the midterm was we did some outreach, as Ken had mentioned. We made calls, we did texts if we couldn't get people. And what we were doing was offering the districts, helping people with their districts and who the candidates were, trying to assist with the political challenge of knowing who you have in your district and some of their findings. So we came up with those midterms, we determined if that particular district was a solid GOP or a likely GOP, whether Democratic or Republican. From those findings and also from the survey after that, we found 4 of the major things that was more concerning of our members and our allies. And that dealt with healthcare, that dealt with immigration, with the economy, and with gun control. Those were from the surveys that we send out to all of the members as well, or for those that we were able to reach out to, and also some of our allies. This chart here, I just took some of the candidates. I know we have a lot, and we did not want to endorse. Once again, this was part of political education.
Is there any way you can focus that?
As a matter of fact, this is going to be something that's going to be ongoing. As we have gotten other candidates, these are some of the key things that we have here. The single payer model, Medicare for all, gun control, prison reform, and immigration. And what I've done is all of the candidates, I've given a little blurb of where they stand on all of those key issues. And as the candidates, as we continue with more candidates, I'll continue this chart so that it'll give everybody kind of an education of where everyone stands. Not that we're endorsing, but giving you an informed information on each candidate and where they stand on all of those issues.
How do you plan to distribute this information? Will this go out in QVision? Will it go on the Facebook page? How are you going to distribute this information?
All of our platforms,
All of them.
depending on manpower.
Because the writing is small, it is in focus, but because it's so compacted, it's hard to see.
It's not in focus for me. It's a total blur.
Well, it's because it's small. So what you may wish to do is take your phone and just take a photograph of the slide so you can then enlarge it on your phone. And then when it's on the platform, it obviously will be a little bit easier to navigate. In order to get all the data onto one slide, it has to be small, and that makes it not as clear as it could be.
And this is going to be different slides, or it's going to be different parts of this, so that as the candidates, we have other candidates here. And I want to make sure that everyone understands who's not only just Democrat, but the Republican, and where they're from, and their stance on all of these key issues that are important to all of us. So as I said, this is going to be something that's going to be ongoing. As Ken mentioned, yes, we will reach out and make sure that this is communicated through QVision, through email, whatever works best for the members. We want to make sure that we're giving you that information best way possible for you to make your decision. This here, I'm going to skip on based on the information that y'all read back, relayed back to us about the different generation. Point heard, so we will redo that part. So I'm going to skip this one. These are just some inserts on some of the concerns that we pulled from those primaries and from the survey about income inequality, and about the 2018 tax cuts. This is just some information, but all of this will be pulled into those slides so that it'll be easy for everyone to be able to have it. Either you print it off or you have an email copy. Hopefully we'll get volunteers to help as I pull all of the candidates in and have these slides. You can be able to kind of look and say, well, where does this candidate stand on gun control? And you can go through and see what all of the candidates stand for. That way you have an educated understanding of what their policies are. Any questions up to this point?
These statistics are staggering, that's all I can say.
Wow, good. That was nice. Do that again.
Once again, here's some more information about immigration. And the previous slides, we have a part where it is on there about immigration and where all of the candidates stand. These are some of the inserts from that. And where some of these candidates stand on immigration and their feelings about it. And a lot of this is going to be constantly changing, so it's going to be a work in progress, but I'm taking on that task to make sure that I keep it current with the candidates as they may change on some of their policies or those that may have new ones. Any questions on that part?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Many of you who've been with us for many years are aware of the fact that we've been doing survey monkeys to gauge feedback, to get feedback from participants at conventions, and during the year we tried to include other surveys on different topics having to do with interests and how you wish to help guide the direction for the board of directors. So the first survey monkey we launched was in 2008 in St. Louis. Before that time, we tried to evaluate programs and activities through the use of paper. But as you can imagine, with the shrinking force of people to work with us, it was tedious, time-consuming, and we couldn't derive a lot of benefit from that. And evaluations were not really very exciting, and most people didn't like filling them out. And even though we would have 50 to 100 people attending activities, our response rates were pretty low. So the reason why we did it, of course, is as you mentioned before, to see whether we're doing too much or too little on certain things to engage people's interests. We eventually evolved into general member surveys to help direct and redirect and focus programs outside of the convention. And we had considered for a period of time trying the audience response survey tools, which some of you may be aware of. If you go to a big convention, they tell you, they give you a device and ask you to press a number. They ask a question about something, and they assign numbers to the answers, and you press the thing, and it broadcasts to the screen in real time what your opinions are on certain things. Interesting technology that has been transformed to now using your smartphone for the same purposes. So instead of having a separate piece of hardware, you can do it with a smartphone. And we were thinking about doing such things at conventions or other major programs, and we just felt that most people weren't interested in this technology back prior to 2012 when we started looking at it. And there seemed to be little interest for doing now surveys. So we decided to keep considering it in the back of our mind, but it's not something that we're interested in pursuing. So we decided on using SurveyMonkey because it's easy to use. The early renditions of it were free, and it allowed us to engage with people who were taking it, asking specific questions and finding out different information was really very illuminating and helped us guide for future activities. Initially, they were a small number of questions. They were anonymous, and
You really aren't talking loud at all.
sorry. Let me try and speak a little louder. I am a little hoarse, so I am unable to project very well. So the purposes of doing SurveyMonkey was basically to try and get information that we couldn't get in any other way. We've sent copies of certain surveys through our Zoho database, which has about 600 names of people on it. Those names were basically harvested from past registration, registrants from past conventions, and members that we've accumulated over the course of many years. Because emails and telephone numbers become inactive or get changed, we lose people, and we try to keep it updated. We've also sent open invitations to the over 15,000 members on our several Facebook pages. They're not really members, but they've demonstrated interest and support of what we're doing, so we consider them one of our constituencies, especially since it's a very large group of people. Our main page has over 13,000 members. And they read things. They may not respond a lot, but they do read things. So the most recent event, the most recent survey was in March of this year, and we had 134 responses, which was the most responses of any SurveyMonkey we have done from 2008 to present. So here's some of the information that we acquired. The colorful chart on the far left just indicates the year of birth. And this is just from the most recent SurveyMonkey. The way we collected the information was just requesting the year of birth, and we plotted this. You can see in the same way that Ken and Demetrius stated earlier about the spread of ages being on the heavy end, on the older, it demonstrates that bell-shaped curve for us in the last survey, this is just the last survey, was skewed to the older group of people. The bottom line indicates the year of birth, and the vertical axis on the chart are the number of people who correspond to that timeline.
Okay, that's not legible to me, and I'm rather farsighted. Could you say a couple of what the years are? What's the year under the biggest, the largest bar?
Okay, this bar here, this is for anyone born 1940 or earlier. 1940 to 44, these are in 5-year, 45 to 49. 1950 to 54. This number here is 25. So this is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 30, 35, 60, 25 up there, but it's supposed to be 35. So you see the largest group fall within the 1855 to 59 group. So it's pretty equal. So most of the people responding to the survey are within from 1950 through 64. Right. It is hard to see here. Let me look at
64.
64. Yeah, 64.
That's the next one. Yeah, early 1960s.
From 1945 through 49, it had about 18 people responding. That's this number right here. And the next one was 50 to 54, 55 to 59, and then the other bar 60 to 64. Okay? PowerPoint comes up with these little transitions. One of the questions we asked, this was just a fun question, sometimes it helps to make people think, oh, this is kind of stupid and funny. We asked people what age I look or act like, how people respond. And just as a matter of curiosity, it's skewed a few years younger than the actual age, which is what we would expect. We did.
Clarify, Mark, do people say they're younger?
They look younger or they act younger than their real ages. And most people feel that way, and that's perfectly great. We plotted the information from the 134 that answered the survey as to where they were located. And again, this shows up better on a computer screen than on the wall, but you can see that there are some folks in Hawaii and people from the West Coast primarily, a few in the middle part, mid-southern part in Texas and Colorado, and then most of the folks who answered the survey are on the east side of the country. The colors do not have any necessary meaning. We asked racial or ethnic background to get a better sense of who's answering this particular survey, and this one demonstrated about 40%, a little under 40%, identified themselves as Black or African American, and then a few other percentage points in people who were African Caribbean, Latinx, Native American, and then a number of people who identified themselves as being white or Caucasian, about 53%, 52%, and then mixed or other. In terms of employment status, most people were retired. Small number of students and unemployed, some disabled, some employed part-time, and then about 36% were employed full-time. Annual income level. The largest level of income was in this 21 to 50,000 per year. This is less than 20,000. This is 51 to 75,000, 76 to 100,000, over 100,000, and preferred not to answer.
Because they heard too much. Wow.
Where do people who answered this particular survey get their news and information about the world? And if they use multiple sources, which one was the major source? And network television seemed to be the largest category, about 67%. National Public Radio, print and online media, other online sources, NABWMT through our website or QVisions or other. And how do people best connect to the organization, to the national organization? Paid membership, convention attendance, Facebook, website, QVisions, local chapter membership.
Oh, that's a lot.
So what's significant here is that almost 40% connect through to the NA through their local chapters. So I think that's very, very important and very telling. The fact that we have so few local chapters implies that this is a really golden opportunity to empower local chapters to be more of a connection with us. Christopher?
Mark, an observation that I've made over the last few years is that even though the chapters may not be formally organized, people still remain in a network of contact with one another who were a part of the group that was more formally organized.
Sure.
And I think that might speak in part to some of that data there.
Absolutely. It is a good example. Detroit is not a recognized chapter anymore. They chose to remain more of a social connection group. But my guess is people from Detroit are still very well connected together and do lots of things together and still are very much in contact with NA activities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the very last couple of slides I found pretty interesting, and this is just, let me know what you think about this. We did ask, who are the inspirational people? Those people who you found inspirational or visionary or leaders within the NA. And 55 different people were named as passionate, inspirational, or visionary with regards to people within the national organization. Those people who are blue on this slide were mentioned more than once, meaning more than one of those of the respondents, the 134 that responded. Those people who were blue were mentioned more than one time by more than one person. Those names that are italicized represent people who are deceased. And we tried to cross-reference this. If we made a mistake, please let us know, because we don't want to misattribute someone's the wrong category. Yeah, Christopher Bates, this is alphabetical. Christopher, you're way up here, and you're blue. So you go more.
I must have voted twice.
I see DA up there.
Yes, DA is up there. Many people that you know who are attending conventions. Dr. John Bush is listed here also in blue. Many other people who you know. Okay, now try and keep this slide in mind. And we're going to go to the next slide and compare it with that last slide. Here are the 35 past Lifetime Achievement Award recipients, people who the NA has formally recognized as being top. Any person with an asterisk in front of the name represent people who are no longer with us, as far as we can, as far as our memories serve us. If this is wrong, if you see something that's incorrect in there, please let us know. And people who are blue were mentioned more than once in the Survey Monkey, in the preceding slide of those people identified as inspirational. So the people who are blue were mentioned, and they also were recognized by the national organization as being Lifetime Achievement members. I found this to be interesting. Do you have any questions? We can bring up the light. We can bring up the lights now, because I think that's the end.
And all of this information was based off the 134 respondents?
Yes.
First slide.
First slide?
Yeah,
The very first opening slide?
Opening slide.
I have a comment.
Sure.
I can see that a lot of work went into this, and it's something that I don't recall having been done, and I really, really appreciate your efforts as a committee. It took a lot of work.
Yeah.
What we tried to do is,
Here we go. Thank you.
Demetrius and Ken, why don't you join me up here? Because this is just time for us to address concerns or questions or other issues. we spend a lot of time with this because we really like this type of information. And we'd like to be able to accumulate information so that we can best address the needs of our constituency. And our constituency is us. It's you and us and all the people in our local areas that are in any way related to what we do. And that's why it's important to find out more about us so we can then target information and be more efficient in what we're doing.
Any more questions from the audience? Comments, criticism? DA?
How are you anticipating anything to engage the silent attendees? I mean, I'm outspoken in any situation.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. You all know me.
We know that. You don't have to tell us that.
You look at who was at the talent show last night, who were at the various meals, functions, and they speak with their feet and with their dollars, what they contribute and what they attend. But how do you reach that the majority of the people that are attendees of the convention or our chapters, they attend because they like somebody, they like the whole concept of interraciality, black and white, but they don't talk, and they're not going to answer your surveys. You've got to do something. What are you doing to try to engage that silent mass that's there? And they're willing to support us, like I say, with their dollars. They paid the dollar to come to convention. They show up, so their feet says there's an interest by coming here. But how do you engage the mass?
It's a two-part question, as I see it. First one is, what do we do as a board and as members to interact with convention people? Well, it's pretty obvious for a family we get around. It's a face-to-face communication in that case, is my opinion on that. These guys may differ. Now, in terms of a chapter, I've got more experience, perhaps. Here's what we do in the chapter. It's not always something about interrelations, black, white, or otherwise. In our chapter, we have people, and we have a Wednesday coffee thing, which has been going on for, I don't know, what, 10 years. 10 years? Our interactions are such that we talk to them face to face. Some of them are very shy. We actually invite them out for coffee on a different day. We pride ourselves in the West Coast about a face-to-face communication. Then, more recently, we've been noticing some of the older folks in our chapter are becoming hermits, or perhaps what they're doing is, I don't know, they pass away, or we just are unaware of them. So we make a pretty good effort to phone them and to talk to them and to request from all of the people in our group where they are. I'm not sure that answers your question, but that's from my own personal experience, DA.
I'm going to piggyback on something Christopher said a couple of days ago, or a day ago. It starts off with the local chapters. It starts off locally. So if you can connect with people locally and offer them a safe place that they can have conversation and feel like they are part of, that's the key. People are feeling disconnected because they're not connected with family. Maybe because they're not accepting of their lifestyle or their choices. So if we have a safe place locally for people to be able to interact and to form a new family, then the second stage of that is introducing them more to what we already currently have. So I look at it as steps. The first step is locally. So we've already been tasked for next year, bring one person. So you have a whole year to connect with one individual. It's great if you can get 2 or 3, but one individual to connect with, offer them a safe place, have them understand the legacy of this organization, and that's how it connects. When you have that, then that one individual will say, hey, you know what? I met someone. They're part of this National Association of Black and White Men together. They offer me a safe place. They have a website. They have a Facebook. They're very, I can go to them and I can ask questions, and it becomes a network. We've tried all of us have tried other avenues to try to get people in, to try to generate membership. But personally, I think it starts locally. You have to start locally and then you build up.
I feel like also, even when you do come to convention, I do see people that, I know a lot of people, and I'm good with remembering names, but I see people that come here to the different conventions, and people don't even go up to them to say hi, or I'm so-and-so, or, hey, it's so good to see you, can I give you a hug? And I think we have to do a better job when we do see people. Hello, I'm so-and-so, just introducing ourselves. And I just don't see why that's not something we do better of. We need to do better. I don't care if you don't live in their city. Hey, how are you? I'm so glad to see you. I mean, we need to do better, I feel.
I absolutely agree with you. And I have made a point of doing that for all of the conventions I come to. And this time, I've noticed that there are about 5 people who really are somewhat kind of being alone. And so I've made the extra effort. A few people, I hooked up and hopefully they had sex or got together some kind of way. But, I don't keep up that long with them to find out whether or not they consummated the introduction. But I do think that the point he just raises is absolutely the glue, particularly for us as board members, to be more sensitive to new faces, more sensitive to people who may be not hanging out with a clique or a little posse, and making them feel more than welcome. We have to take the extra effort, and if other members of the convention party, if you will, would do that, I think we would benefit greatly from it.
Yes, sir. So maybe Mac needs to head up a hospitality and house committee for the next convention. I see this in other organizations where there is a disconnect in our world because of the internet, and maybe we need to really identify some people. I'd be willing to help with that too. Of really making sure everyone gets some attention.
Yeah, the other thing is I remember in Long Beach and San Diego, we had a meet and greet. And I think that was on the schedule this time.
Yeah, for the past 3 years, we've had a meet and greet for new members with co-chairs to kind of break down any walls that may be there.
And then one final thing is there's a catch email, NABWMT at NABWMT.org. Anybody that inquires, at least on the website, and sometimes on the Facebook, it comes through to me, and I typically 2 or 3 times a week get obscure questions on there, and I answer as to the best of my ability. It's usually where is the local chapter, what are you guys doing in terms of this or that. So that's one other avenue where we have a consistent online presence if they want to use that email. Contact us.
And then show. I'm not a committee person. But I would definitely be willing to be a part of the greeting or hospitality. I have no problem at all greeting people. And if you're a hugger, I don't mind hugging at all. So if there's any way that I can participate in that, please put me into that committee. I would love to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I first came to my first convention, I was really shy meeting everybody and stuff, so I kind of was standoffish. And if it wasn't for Steve and Art and being, latched to them, I wouldn't be as involved as I am now. And now I'm very outgoing, and when I see somebody new, something different, I go up to them right away. In fact,
Would you have to ask for their phone number?
Next question. Thank you. Can I respond?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Can I respond to the first reason?
Absolutely, please.
So I felt really, I'm kind of a bold bitch anyway, so, can you speak up, please? I'm kind of a bold bitch anyway, so I will like approach people and talk, but my first impressions were, I was really glad.
Thank you.
I mean, you can't throw a rock without hitting the other person here, so I saw a face I knew pretty quickly, like literally walking the door. I saw 3 Philly people, so that provided some reassurance for me. And I've known Scott for a long time, and Ken and Bill for a long time as well. So, but even as bold as I am, I will admit that I latched on to comfort and familiar. The thing that, first of all, let me just say this has been a tremendous experience. So anyone involved in this organization or these last few days, it has exceeded my expectations. So I want you to know that I've been hearing from Scott, Ken, and Bill, you should go for years. I'm like, you know, well, I mean, I've had really challenging jobs before where I didn't have them anyway. I feel like I've missed out. And that's the message that I'll be sending probably on the Facebook group. As if I share my experience, I feel like I did not know about it. I knew about it and didn't choose it. And I guess I kind of confused sometimes I wasn't living near a chapter. I've had 10 license plates in my adult life. And what I didn't realize was I had the option to be part of this without ever connecting to a chapter. And so I think chapter is important, but it's also not the only conduit. So I will do what I can to make sure people know that this is an option. One of the things that I think has been most beautiful about this is the relationships. When you say family, you really mean it. And I went through so much stuff in the last 15 years that I could have used this. And I didn't have it because I didn't choose it. And so the messages I will say to other people when I leave is, you can participate, you can connect, and I'm leaving here with friends, you know, so, and people like I want to get to know. And so I do feel like my personality being outgoing, I'm either completely outgoing or I will shut down and go off in a corner to recover. But even bold as I am, I do admit that I saw faces, you know, Shell, when I walked in, John Spear, Nate. But Nate always looks at me like this. But still familiar, and I know he's kidding. That's how big. So anyway,
Can I request something from you, if you don't mind? That is an excellent testimonial.
Right.
And I'd like to capture that with a phone.
Sorry.
Are you asking for money?
Yes.
Oh. Maybe I'll withdraw that. But you know, if you don't mind doing that gratis, I'd like to phone interview you, and we'll use it in the Q Vision. So who's up next? Can you answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah. Loud.
Oh, okay. You guys challenged us to bring one person next year. In Memphis, it's just me and Chuck. I would like a little help with getting people information, because I saw that we have a lot of information. So I need a little help to kind of point people to different ways they could connect and get information on it, where we could each bring somebody. Because in Chuck's head, we're a couple, but we're a couple, but we're still two different people. Meaning that would be 2 people that we would try to bring. So I was just asking.
Well, I think just put the title together as couple seeking a third. And then in small print, put to attend convention next year in New Orleans, and you'll get a lot of interest.
Like swingers? Can you clarify what your needs are? Do you need to communicate with people in Memphis, or are you just a stack of information so you're up to date?
We know a lot of people.
Okay.
It's just that if people want information on the group, because sometimes I can't get people to understand what I'm saying.
You talking about literature?
like
literature.
yeah, pamphlets and stuff like that. Yeah.
Stuff that we could
Pass out.
gravitate people to get people to come.
Mark's taking an hour of that, if we can provide you with information and contacts, and yes.
I think part, I'm not speaking for him because I don't think we should discuss this, but I think it might be part of what he's thinking is that now that everything's gone digital, electronic, that for people who don't do that, we don't really have brochures anymore, it seems. So if there was something like that.
Yeah, well, but they just stepped out of the room looking for an example of it, but I had taken it as an action item from our general membership meeting to create a brochure that you could pass out. In years past, we've had palm cards, little
Yeah.
fit in the palm of your hand. Yeah, so we've done that.
Freedom gradually, but we want to be free now.
Power to the people. Everybody knows that all the people don't have liberty, all the people don't have freedom, all the people don't have justice, and all the people don't have God, but that means none of us do.
We stand on the eve of a black revolution, brothers.
No compromise.
Until justice rolls.
We've got to build so much strength in building our communities that if they come to get one person, they will have to mess with us all. That's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. We've got to build so much strength inside our community that when LBJ says some new voice, how will be said?
We have a movement ahead. Let nothing stop us. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving.